Hello guys. Today I am going to talk about another foreshortening because the last episode 3, there was a lot of question and a lot of suggestion that I would uh, make another tutorial. In this one, we're going to do again foreshortening, but I'm going to explain a little bit more in depth of how to measure the length or the width of the either legs or arm or each part of the limbs, if that limbs coming into the foreshortening, right? So it's kind of like that. But I'm going to break it down. So you have to have a little bit of knowledge about perspective to be able to pull that off. If your perspective is not quite good, then a lot of time you're going to have problems when you are doing, whether it be figure or environment or anything. So if you want to be a good drawer or a good concept artist for that matters, you have to make sure your perspective knowledge is solid. But there are the way to cheat. You can if you can model 3D in Maya or in Max or in ZBrush, then you would be able to kind of capture that part and then get those onto your perspective drawing. But if you don't know how to do that, then you might as well doing the real drawing of perspective. But either way, even if you know how to do that, it's probably also good just in case you don't have the tools in hand. You have to be able how to get the perspective grid or perspective object by hand, and that would be a good way to, just in case if you don't have any other tools that you can rely on, right? So it's always good to know more. And usually I have a question from you guys. If you guys comment down below and ask a question, then I would have more topic or more thread to go off of. Because I'm not sure what you guys want or what you guys are lacked on, then I could take that and put it into the new video, right? So, all right. So today we are going to do another pose, action pose, basically. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you like the video, click like. Alright guys, in this video we are going to continue doing the foreshortening, but this one we're going to go a little bit more in depth on how to measure them in a little more accurate way rather than guessing it. But in reality, most of the time when I draw it myself, I would just like either look at the reference or doing what I call guesstimate. It's guessing with the knowledge of how to do it correctly. So I don't actually go measure. Like sometimes when you do draw a perspective on a building, right? If you know, if you've been doing enough perspective drawing with drawing grid and all that, then you probably know what to fill in between the gap without having to really go in and measure them. So video is going to be quite a bit longer than usual post video because somebody asked me about how to measure the accurate measurement of the perspective. I think that's pretty useful, but I don't think it's necessary. I mean, it's important to know, but when you're drawing a figure, if you practice drawing a lot, you can probably get them as accurate as you would actually measure them itself. But it's on the other side, it's always good to know how to actually measure something in space. So I'm going to show you both ways. And like I was thinking about this topic, right? And I was thinking, well, if you have to always rely on one thing all the time, it might not be as efficient. So whatever that gives you the most effective way to draw, that should be the good way. Since this is a figure and these are not, you're not doing the architecture drawing, but it's always good to know how, if you are going to further your career, you're gonna need to know perspective really well, and you have to be able to execute it when you want to repeat some shape in space and you want to measure certain things in space. So in this video, I'm going to show you both. In this one, I'm going to show you my thought process on this figure first, like how I draw it and how to get the image accurately. And oh, I lost my train of thought. I was talking about like if you have to measure them, it's kind of like you are shooting a basketball in a hoop, right? You can actually measure the velocity, the speed, and the angle, and how that the ball from one spot to the other spot using all this accurate measurement if you're a physicist. And then you can actually predict if the ball would go which way and how fast it should go. And if you want it at that speed, then it will go into the hoop, right? And in comparison to the athlete itself, who is performing the task, he or she doesn't need to know all those physics formula and all this speed and velocity. He just does. So that is my kind of argument of, sometimes you don't really need to know all that, but you just use your, I would say, I don't want to say instinct or anything like that. You just use your experience and your time that you spend on certain subject, and you become very comfortable with it, and you become very accurate by performing it. So if you're doing a lot of life drawing, then you don't have to go all this way around and kind of trying to get the more perspective or the length. If you draw 100 drawing or 1,000 drawing of the certain angle or anything in foreshortening, then I'm pretty sure if you draw like 500 of them, the 501 and 502, it will you feel better about it, and you will get a more accurate. But if you just start 1, 2, 3, 10, that's not enough. You're gonna have to draw more, and you're gonna have to pay more attention. So what I mean by drawing a lot is by 5,000. I mean, not 5,000 is a lot too, but like hundreds and hundreds of drawing instead of just like 10. And that's, all those professionals that work in the industry, they draw like thousands of image, because if you think about it, you can draw maybe 2, 3, 4. You go to gesture session all year, and that's a lot of drawing already. So anyways, just think of it that way, athlete and the physicist. So you can do it either way. And I have this one here. So I'm gonna, in the beginning, I have this first and how to measure this, but I think it's gonna be kind of boring. But it's pretty useful, and you can use this in a lot of things. But I'm gonna show you the breakdown of the body first, but I record that afterwards. So if you see my conversation kind of go a little bit differently, don't get confused. The way I started off this one, you have to look at the angle of, so body are flexible, so they're not solid piece. And usually I separate the torso and the pelvic into two separate parts, because there are two separate parts in reality, and they are the actual bones in your body, and they are not flexible. The only flexible part is your flesh. So then I'll find, the torso, which way it's going. That's your collarbone. There. So you can either make it a cylinder or a box, it doesn't matter. But for me, I like to kind of combine them both. And the box could be a little flexy, but it's not that flexible. And then your pelvic. So this is where you would know if the body is facing whatever direction there, right? And then you have this direction of the side of the body. And then on the pelvic, you know that the pelvic is going a little up, and you would have that, you see that bottom part here, because that's going to connect these two, and then that's going to be the other legs. But since the pelvic are not a rectangular box, then you have like the loop here, that will be the bone, that will be the socket, that goes there. So but if you imagine them as I like to imagine it as box first, so I get the more accurate picture of how are these two connect, or how are these two related. If I draw it in the actual skeleton structure, it would be kind of a little harder or longer to draw. And then you have this socket here, right? But this arm straight down, because it's where you hold the weight. But even though you hold the weight, but you don't hold it doesn't actually hold the weight of this whole thing because you got this momentum moving. So it's actually floating, right? With the momentum moving this way, these are just partially hold maybe 70% of the body weight because the other part was helping by the velocity and some physics that I didn't know. But I would be able to kind of guess or predict it from a long time drawing in the live drawing session. If you were to hold in one hand, the body has to probably tilt up a little bit more. Depends on how they hold it in the three-dimensional space. And there are actually people who can hold up their body for quite a while with just one hand. So you can go on YouTube and take a look at them, like how to do a two-hand stand, how to do a one-hand stand. They are pretty awesome. All right, so, and then those legs, if you have to sort of know where they're going. So contour line would help. So these are going a little bit minus Z because they're going back in space, X, Y, Z. Front, back, and this front. And you gotta do the contour line. Alright guys, so these are, and here the arm, you can do the same thing. Just try to see things or see object or see all these figure in space. These are not a 2D plane. So the best way to get pretty good at drawing the action pose or any pose with these is to go into the live drawing section, the actual live drawing session. Then once you get used to your live drawing, try to go, if it's really hard for you to go, then just go maybe once a month at least. And then when you look at the photo, you can actually see the photo in actual space. But if you're always relying on the photo alone, then you might not be able to see the actual space or the actual body weight distribution and some of the stuff that you might miss. You will miss out if you don't go to live drawing. So, all right, first thing first, before you would be able to find the length of this leg in perspective, you are going to have to figure out where the horizontal lines is. And to figure out where the horizontal line is, you can look at the foreshortening itself. So the more distorted or the more foreshortening you get, that's mean that particular part is pretty close to the horizontal line itself, right? Because if, let's just say, if I have the horizontal line here, just for example, things that are distorted to you will be whatever that are closer to the horizontal line. You wouldn't see it. And if I lift it up a little bit, then you're going to see that line, right? Let me do another one here. Right? And if it's further out, then it would look a little more normal. But if it's closer, it's getting a little more distorted. And that's where you kind of get that sort of foreshortening from, because it's closer to the horizontal line. If the object is further out, then it probably won't get that sort of distorted in the perspective, or it doesn't come forward as much as the object that is closer to the horizontal line. All right, so this is a pretty bad perspective drawing, so don't mind me. So we are going to, let's just say, here's the and then you have to find the anchor point. So probably her hip rotation cups here, and then so that would be the beginning point of the bone, and that will be the end point of her legs. So this, what I would call this length. But then from then on, you can imagine the cylinder, right? If you have like, just create a sort of cylinder here. So it's probably not that far from that horizontal line. If I draw, the best way to do is probably draw these two lines, but well, might as well, but it's gonna make it this line really long. Supposedly. Okay, so right there, we finally found our. So this is not like super duper accurate, but it's accurate enough to get you to the right, to give you the right idea. All right. So I'm going to name this H. And I am also going to reduce the size of this just in case if I have to use more area for the perspective, and I would move it to the left because since the furthest way of the foot would go this way. So here, then I'm gonna turn the white on. All right, and I'm just gonna get rid of that inaccurate circular part. Okay, so now we have two lines and we have this, so we're just gonna measure this length. So you asked for it, I'm just gonna give you the more accurate way or the hard way. So you can use this to sort of find your, even the section of the legs, how long it is and how wide it is, right? So you want to measure them. Here it is. Okay, and I'm going to rename this one to, let's just do V, the vanishing point. So we have the vanishing point here. Then we're gonna have to figure out the length of this leg on the horizontal, not on the x-axis, which means the 2D plane of the actual length of the legs on that distance. So since each people legs are different, I am just going to name this layer X leg, and I'm just going to use, I'm gonna make her leg a little bit longer than her actual body. So I'm going to, let's pick yellow here, maybe that's her body length. Just a bit. Long. Wait. A bit longer. Probably should be longer than that legs because that leg is going in back into space, and yeah, it should be around that. So it has to be a little bit longer than the body, your whole legs, right? Or it could be like not a little bit longer. You could actually double size it, maybe. Yeah, you could. Yeah, because your legs could come all the way up to your knee could come up all the way almost to your shoulder. So it should be sometime almost double the length of your whole body. Because when you trying to bend your body downward, your head wouldn't go down all the way to the floor. Your head would go down all the way to only your knees. So your legs would be almost double your body. Or some people have longer legs, so they double or even get longer, right? So yeah, let's do it a little more accurate way. So if I have that length, transform, so that's about the length. So we're just gonna do from that axis, make a copy right there, maybe a bit shorter. All right, so that is kind of closer, I think. So now we have the length of the leg in perspective would look shorter because it's get that angle that's coming into the front. But if you get the leg, if her legs is up on the x-axis. So what I mean by x-axis is here. If you ever done mathematics, x, y, then you got the z, right? This would be the z-axis, and this is what we find is the length of this leg is in z-axis. And the length of this leg is on the 2D plane, which is the x-axis. And if she would go all the way up, let's just say we're just doing it. It doesn't have anything to do with perspective, what I'm going to do here, but I'm just showing you if the legs were going all the way up, it would be that. And we could find that arc going up all the way. So that's how you find how long the leg should be kicking all the way up on the x-axis and on the y-axis. So now this one is a long way, but usually you use this to draw frame of the window, doors, columns when you want them to be evenly apart in perspective. So basically it used a lot in environment, so it's good to know. So here, to find the length of an object in perspective, so let's just say, I'm just going to draw another one here. So let's just say we want to find this length here of this A, right? From here to there in perspective. With the width here, we already can just copy or having the same amount of length because it's on the 2D plane, right? If this length, we can just, oh, okay, it's exact same length. You can just use the same unit and it will be even because it's on the x-axis and it will be even and it's on the same plane. But with that line, you can't just copy that line and go there because things that are further away in perspective, they will get shorter and smaller. So the way to find that is you have to draw the intersect line from one corner to the other corner. I'm just going to do it really quick, so if it doesn't go to the exact corner, don't mind me. Once you have those line that intersect, those diagonal line, and you have to find the halfway of this, or the cut this line in half, break it even. And let's say vanishing point from these two here is somewhere there. Then I'm just going to draw the line that cross that. So once you intersect the middle section of this square, and you're going to have another intersect line that intersect with this other x-axis here in the space on the plane. Once you intersect with that line, that will be where you want to draw another line to find the length of this object A in space. So here, I'm just going to draw another line to intersect that spot there. Let's just say it's intersect. Then that will be the length of this also, and this cross there. So now you have A in space, which is a lot shorter. So these are the way that you would find the mirror image of the other mirror of the length of that specific part of the object go in space. So let's just say if you want this to be going on the other side, how far it would be, supposedly, then you're going to have to measure the length of this and going over there. So just kind of like the same thing, right? So let's just say, just going to do really quick. Suppose the furthest part here, let's just do it there and here, right? So draw both onto the horizontal line. We can do this way, just one line is enough, right? So, and then intersect, and then you have the midline there, draw it onto the vanishing point. Then you have that intersect line, and then you're just gonna cut the intersect part. Well, let's use another color. Let's use blue. Let's zoom in a little bit. There. So where this line intersect with that horizontal line, that yellow line here, and then you look at this line that coming along and it intersect there. So that means when these legs going all around, it's going to end up there. So the radius of this length will be the furthest point of leg. If she was to kick this leg all the way back here, it will be here, right? So if I happen to draw, then her legs would be here. See what I mean? So if I turn off all this perspective line, so that will be the furthest point that she go. That is the other leg. So the length, if her legs was still coming into this position, it would be that yellow line here. So now the way to find is how far this thing would go on this curve is you have this furthest point on the x-axis and the point of contact on this y-axis. The furthest y-axis probably here somewhere, right? So now, and then you have another furthest point that is right where the intersection of that line is, which is here. I'm just going to erase that so I know where exact furthest line is. Then where's that yellow line? Okay, so now I'm going to use green. I hope you're not getting confused here. It's going to get to this point, it's kind of getting a little complicated, right? So now we have the length from here to here. Then what you're gonna have to do is basically create a circular shape. So I'm just going to make another layer here, and this is your furthest point. So from your furthest point here, you can draw the radius. I'm not doing a very good job, but that's, you know, that's the idea. But then if you want to find the other one, it's probably going to be on the same length. So there. Right? So now you got a rough ideas of where it is. I'm not pretty good at this at all. So the line would get closer to the upper, but then as it coming lower, it's going to get kind of further out. You draw that another line that coming toward us. So now you have this curve, and what you need is basically just that line there, that curved line, to know where the length of everything would go. Then you can just practice your cylinder drawing. That will be the front one. Like, and then the knee part, if you want to measure the section of the knees, then doing the same thing what I did with the legs and the other part, right? So you know this section of the knee go here, but you can just do it the easy way, which is find this knees, and then this would be where the knee would be, and there. So, and then you can just go on and if, well, I kind of did this wrong here. So it would have to kind of going into that axis point. So it would instead of finding those perspective, you probably wanted, the easiest way is to get that from that axis point here, right? And just draw your perspective or your cylinder to practice there. It's probably easier to than finding the real perspective line on everything. So basically all this is good when you want to find the actual length and width of the object, but then that would take you forever to get this drawing done. But eventually, if you know this perspective, it will kind of like go ingrained in your brain, and you will just sort of be able to guess accurately or almost accurately. So I would recommend the same way as in the first video, to just find this axis on this pelvic, and then here, and then find this arc. So if this leg were to go probably here, right? So basically the same, and then just this would be the most circular one, and as it goes away, and in this one would be almost flat. And practicing, draw a lot of these. And the more accurate, get it more accurate than what I did, because this is not quite accurate. Then as it goes, this is short, and when you get further out, it will get kind of longer. Right? The more you practice, the more accurate you get. This is just really quick, sketchy, kind of giving you the ideas, and you just have to do one row, because on the other side, you probably get shorter and shorter, because. So what you would do, you just practice drawing this perspective line, if you would, and then practice these drawing up and down, because these are two different sides. This is you seeing from the bottom, this is you seeing from the top. And as you go, you get thinner, right? I'm just doing it really quick, so because this has been quite a long breakdown video. So anyways, that's how you basically find. And if you want to find this, like I said, this length and this length, you're gonna have to go back to all the way in the beginning and find those horizontal line and find those measuring point. But if you just want a shorter way, you can do this. Or if you want something in between, you can use this as a horizontal line, which it might not be accurate, but it will make it easier for you. So there, if you want to measure them accurately, you can do it that way. And if you have any question, don't ask any more harder question than this, because it's going to get longer and longer. Just go to a lot of live drawing practice and draw a lot and practice this section, or sometimes you can even make it box, right? And then if that would be easier for you, and rotate in space somewhere. So yeah, all right, I just realized that all these tubes, I didn't show you guys how to actually measure them. So the way to find this arc, right, and the way to kind of get all these tubes in perspective. So, well, I'm gonna show you guys, probably not gonna show all of it, but somewhere to get you started, and it will be pretty easy to follow. All right, so first you are going to have to find, bear with me here, it's not going to be hard. So there you get vanishing point and this grid. So to find those circular shape, right, then you're gonna need this point of contact, which is halfway here, and just let's just guess halfway there here and halfway there here. But the way to find this exact length down, you know how to find that, to find the intersection cross that I just showed you earlier. Now you have this that's not accurate. There we go. You have to intersect them first, and all these 4 points are really important because it's going to be the radius point of contact, right? And you can just get the circular shape. Let's use pink on here. And since that one is short, so you're gonna have a short distance of radius there, but then you're gonna have a longer distance of radius here. That might be too long. Also, now you're gonna have an ellipse here. Let's just say it's accurate. You can use another line to help find that anchor point if it's make it easier for you. So you have this intersection that might help you get from here to here easier and here to here easier. So and those are going to be the radius, and this make sure that they intersect. So you find those curve of that movement. Now there are ways to measure how to make this all even, right? But I'm not going to show you that today because that's going to get really complicated. So we're just going to break this down in section. Let's just say this would be your circular shape here. Break that down and try to say if you have easy way to do this, if you have 5 sections here, then try to make that into 5. And this is going to be flat, right? And then just draw circular shape and use that endpoint there as your anchor. Don't use that one, this one, because her hip rotation is here, but then her vanishing point is there. So same thing here, right? So you just find a circular shape there and just do the contour line. So that's how to find those, and these are not that pretty, but it's give you the ideas of how to get those curve and all that. And you can do on the different, like how far you would go here, and you would make a circular shape here, and just do the same thing. And that one you won't see anything because it's probably going to end flat right there, right? Flat right where the furthest point of that circular shape would go. But there are other ones that you can do also. If you move it up, say you want it to be higher, then you have to find this corner. So you find a corner and you find a contact point. Let's do the contact point a little after. So now you have these 4, then you just get that. So now you have this box, and then you draw this corner up. So you see that intersection point, draw that corner up, see that intersection point, and that would be the line where this ellipse shape would be inside. Then you draw the contact point in the middle, and then you cut it through the vanishing point. So you have another half there. Then draw that contact point up, then that will be your where the ellipse edge would contact it. Then you could do the midsection, so that will be your midsection there. Then you're going to draw the curve here, contact. Then you can do the same loop here, like breaking section. You say 5 on here, then that's going to be bigger, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the other side. At this part, it will be flat. So same thing here, but this is going to be, you're not going to see much of the mesh in this angle because it's all going to be blocked by the front part of the mesh. And then you can go even further up, right? And you're going to see, now you're going to see the bottom part, like what I shown in this figure here, and draw that into the perspective line, and get, measure all those things, get circular shape, and then get those. Same thing, but use the middle point of the circular shape or of the ellipse shape to get those. All right, so I hope that kind of clears that up. And if you have any question, post them down in the comment below again, and I will try to answer all your questions with the figure drawing and all those things. All right, guys, hopefully this helped. A couple more things I want to add here. So this would get you pretty close. This practice would get you pretty close to whatever you want to draw in perspective, but it's also, you're gonna have to know the legs kind of taper here, right? And it's got a loop. It got bigger and then goes smaller again. And relatively to find those size, if you want to go measure everything, it's going to be super hard and super long. So what you want to do is you want to go to a lot of live drawing practice, and then eventually it's kind of like you're practicing basketball. So you're just practicing shooting until you get it super accurate. And those guys, they're not thinking, okay, this line to the perspective, and how would I doing the angle that would make the ball going into that hoop, right? So that would be kind of what I'm talking about here. The more you do something, the more accurate you get without having to actually going in and measuring those lines or those width or those length or mathematical formula or things like that. Because if athlete were able to do that without having to thinking in the back of their head, without those formula, then artists, I believe, would be able to do the same thing, to draw something accurate after drawing them for a long time. So if you practice a lot drawing foreshortening, then you'll be able to get them accurately. And one other suggestion I would make is that whatever is in the front, let's just say if this piece of ankle is in the front, then the line would be over this part. Because if this calf is behind, then you're going to have to, you see what I mean? So if this part was in the front, then have the line coming over a little bit. Then it would look as if that part's in the front, this in the front. And same as this, if you have the feet here, that line's in the front. And then you go the chin part here. Just gonna erase that. So it looks like it's in the front. And if this chin's in the front of the knees, then you draw that. So it looks like it's in the front, and your kneecap, that. But you don't want to make the length the same. This would be shorter, right? And this calf that goes up is in the front of that legs. Just make it on top, go over. You see what I mean? So there. So something that are in the front, make it in the front or make it on top. So that will make it easier for the audience to read which is in the front of which. I think that's one of the things that I always do. All right, here is the actual drawing that takes a lot less time than all those measurements. So I start off with the biggest part, or the body, the torso and the pelvic, and then I try to get the forefront shape of the foot first, then draw the line all the way to the pelvic or the ankle point, then trying to get the actual line for the legs, and the arms are really important because it's going to carry all the weight, and then the direction of the head. So all these things are pretty important. And the last piece is the other arm, which is kind of hanging there to help balance, help the other arm get the balance with all these legs and two legs and one arm in the air and the head. So this arm is actually going to help the other arm carrying the whole body weight. So now we got this is basically all the foundation of the gesture is pretty much done at this point. The rest of them I'm going to have to fill in the adding more information of what part of the body actually is. So I'm getting the face on first, which I'm not sure why. I should have got the leg first, but I'm trying to get the direction of the face, and the arm, which gonna be, the line's gonna have a little bit more force because it carried the weight, and then the other arm. So now I'm going on to the foreshortening legs, and I'm gonna post the reference image that I used down below, and so that you guys can practice, right? But if you guys want to draw something without a reference, you are going to have to use some measurement method or drawing the tube on those things, and that's what I usually do when I don't have the reference in hand. And the drawing, I tweak it from the reference a little bit because that's what I usually like to do. Especially like I like to change the hairstyle to be a pigtail so that it would flow, or the ponytail so it would give it a little more the direction of the movement. So then I got the foot and the legs there. And as you can see what I talked about earlier, whatever object that is in the front, the line is going to come over. Whatever muscle group is in the front, the line is going to be in the front. So you can use that to help try that out and see if it would help you drawing. So like if the deltoid is in the front, the calves in the front, then you will be in the front of some of the object. If the chin's in front of the knees or the kneecaps in front of the chin, whichever part is in the front, then that line is going to be on top. And then the other legs, there we go. So we pretty much get all these. And while I'm drawing this figure, my head are always thinking in terms of the contour line inside those calves or those thighs, right, or this arm, so that you can visualize it in space and how all these wireframe would kind of look. The wireframe I'm talking about, not like the whole wireframe, the wireframe of the contour, like where the contour or the intersection of this mesh would be. So when you're thinking about those intersections, or be able to see those objects in 3D space, it will help you draw slightly better, or maybe a lot better, I don't know, depends on the people, because it kind of helps you see an object as it is, not as it presented. So especially in photograph, sometimes you look at photograph and you see it's pretty flat. A lot of time, if you haven't been doing the live drawing that many times, then you might not be able to visualize which is which. But if you're pretty imaginative, maybe that would help. And then I rotating some of these the canvas a little bit, so I could get some of this line to be a little more smoother. And the reason I rotate them so that I can get my elbow to be my anchor point and get the smoother line for the curve. And usually that pretty help. And I always do it with my regular sketchbook and pencil. And I figured those are a lot harder to shoot. I might have to wear like a GoPro or something, and even when I wear a GoPro on those, it probably can be pretty shaky. All right, so I think the best way to kind of show you guys it's in digital form, and it doesn't matter what you guys are using. I'm using Sketchbook Pro on iPad. You can use like pencil and paper. It will still use the same movement and the same thought process. All right, guys. Well, have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment down below and click like. Bye-bye.